I never thought a single sentence from my 5-year-old daughter could change our lives forever. As a single mom to Lily since my husband Tom died, I rarely get a break. When my mother-in-law Judith offered to watch Lily overnight, I hesitated but agreed. Tom and his mother had a complicated relationship, but I believe family connections matter. The next morning, everything seemed normal until we got in the car. That's when Lily leaned close and whispered, "Mommy, Grandma said I should never tell you what I saw." Those words sent ice through my veins. Being a widow at 32 with a young child wasn't what I planned. 2 years ago, Tom was driving home from work when his car went off the road. The police called it an accident, saying he likely fell asleep at the wheel. One moment I had a husband who adored our daughter, and the next I was planning his funeral while trying to explain to a 3-year-old why Daddy wasn't coming home. Tom's mother Judith made the funeral unbearable. She sobbed dramatically, telling everyone how close they were, which was far from true. Tom had kept his distance from her for years, though he never fully explained why. He would only say that his mother lived differently than we did, and he wanted to protect Lily from her influence. I respected his wishes while he was alive, limiting visits to holidays and occasionally letting Judith see Lily in our home. After Tom died, Judith began demanding more time with Lily, calling her my only connection to my son. She'd send expensive gifts that were completely inappropriate for a preschooler, like crystal figurines or designer clothes that were sizes too big. When I gently returned them, suggesting age-appropriate alternatives, she'd accuse me of trying to erase her from Lily's life. My best friend Amanda had been my lifeline through all this. Last Tuesday, she came over after Lily went to bed, bringing wine and takeout. "When was the last time you did something just for you?" she asked, refilling my glass. "You can't pour from an empty cup, Bree." I laughed. "What cup?" "I'm more like a dried-up water bottle someone stepped on." "Exactly why you need a night off. I'd take Lily, but Jason has that stomach bug going around his school." I sighed. "It's fine. Maybe when she's older." The next morning, my phone rang with Judith's name on the screen. I braced myself before answering. "Brianna, I'm calling to insist on having my granddaughter overnight this Friday." Her voice had that familiar commanding tone that always made my shoulders tense. "It's been 2 years since Thomas passed, and I've respected your space, but enough is enough." I nearly declined automatically, but something stopped me. Maybe Amanda was right. Maybe I did need one night to remember who I was besides Lily's mom. "I'll think about it," I said, surprising both of us. Judith pushed harder. "What's to think about? You get a break, Lily gets quality time with her grandmother. It's what Thomas would want." I doubted that last part, but the offer was tempting. "Let me talk to Lily first. She's never stayed anywhere overnight without me." Lily was surprisingly excited when I mentioned it during dinner. "Can I sleep in Grandma's guest room, with the fancy pink lamp?" she asked. I didn't even know Judith had such a lamp, which made me realize how little I knew about my mother-in-law's current life. That night, I called Tom's childhood friend Ryan, who still lived in his hometown. "What do you think about Lily staying with Judith overnight?" I asked after catching up. There was a long pause. "Has Judith changed a lot since we were kids?" "I don't know. I've always kept some distance because Tom did." Ryan sighed. "Look, Mrs. Larson wasn't the worst mom, but she had a revolving door of friends and parties that went too late. Tom hated it. But people can change, especially after losing a child. Maybe she just wants a relationship with her granddaughter." I spent the next 2 days preparing Lily for her first night away from me. We packed her favorite pajamas, her stuffed bunny Graham, and the nightlight she couldn't sleep without. I wrote down her bedtime routine and food preferences in painful detail. "Remember to call me if you need anything," I told her, as we drove to Judith's house Friday afternoon. "Any time, even if it's late." "I know, Mommy," Lily said, rolling her eyes in that dramatic way she'd recently picked up. "I'm 5 now. That's basically grown up." Judith's house was in an upscale neighborhood about 30 minutes from ours. The lawn was perfectly manicured, and the house itself had been recently painted. It looked nothing like the place Tom had described from his childhood. Judith greeted us at the door wearing an outfit that seemed more appropriate for a business lunch than a night with a kindergartner. Her smile didn't reach her eyes when she hugged me, but it warmed when she bent to Lily's level. "There's my precious girl. We're going to have the best time," she said, taking Lily's overnight bag. "I've got movies, ice cream, and a special surprise waiting in the guest room." I stepped inside to go over my detailed instructions, noticing how spotless everything was. Too spotless for a house prepared for a 5-year-old visitor. As I reached the end of my list, I heard a thump from somewhere deeper in the house. "Is someone else here?" I asked. Judith's smile tightened. "Just the housekeeper finishing up. She'll be gone soon." But as I was leaving, I noticed several pairs of men's shoes by the door that hadn't been there when we arrived. And as Judith hurried me out, I distinctly heard male voices from the back of the house. A flicker of doubt hit me, but Lily was already exploring the living room, excited about her adventure. "We'll be fine," Judith assured me firmly, practically pushing me out the door. "Go enjoy your evening. We won't disturb you unless it's an emergency." As I walked to my car, I heard laughter that definitely wasn't from a housekeeper. I almost turned back, but told myself I was being overprotective. People can have visitors. That didn't mean anything was wrong. I didn't know then how much I would regret not trusting my instincts. My night off was anything but relaxing. I tried watching a movie, but kept checking my phone. At 8:30, I called to say goodnight to Lily. Judith answered on the fourth ring, sounding irritated. "We're in the middle of a princess movie," she said over what sounded like several conversations in the background. "Can't this wait? I just want to say goodnight to Lily," I insisted. A minute later, Lily came on. "Hi, Mommy. We're having ice cream and watching Frozen. Are you having fun? Is everything okay?" I asked. Huh. Grandma has friends over and they're really loud, but she said I can stay up late." Before I could ask more questions, Judith took the phone back. "She's fine, Brianna. Stop hovering." Then she hung up. I called again at 10, concerned about the friends and Lily being up so late. This time, Judith didn't answer. I tried 3 more times before she finally responded with a text. "Lily asleep. All fine. Stop calling." I barely slept that night, checking my phone every hour. By 6 in the morning, I decided enough was enough. I threw on clothes and drove to Judith's house, arriving just after 7. The house looked different in the morning light. The curtains were all drawn, and an unfamiliar car was parked in the driveway beside Judith's Mercedes. I rang the doorbell 3 times before Judith answered, looking like she'd just woken up, wearing a silk robe and smelling faintly of alcohol. "What are you doing here so early?" she snapped. "I told you we'd call when we were ready." "I was worried when you stopped answering last night," I said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Where's Lily?" "Still sleeping, like any normal person would be at this hour on a Saturday." The house was immaculate again, no sign of the gathering I'd heard through the phone. As I headed toward the guest room, Judith blocked my path. "Let her sleep. God knows she was up late enough thanks to your constant calling." Something in her tone made my skin crawl, but I pushed past her. Lily was indeed asleep in the guest room, clutching Graham the bunny. The pink lamp Ryan had mentioned sat on the bedside table. Everything looked normal, but something felt off. I sat on the edge of the bed and gently woke her. "Hey, sweetie, ready to go home?" Lily rubbed her eyes and nodded sleepily. I helped her change while Judith hovered in the doorway, repeatedly mentioning how unnecessary my early arrival was. Lily was unusually quiet as we gathered her things. "Did you have fun with Grandma?" I asked as I helped her with her shoes. She glanced at Judith before answering. "We had ice cream." That was all I could get from her, as we said goodbye to Judith, who was already making plans for the next overnight visit. I non-committally thanked her and ushered Lily to the car. As I buckled her into her car seat, I noticed she was clutching her stuffed bunny tighter than usual. "Everything okay, sweetie?" Lily looked back at the house where Judith stood watching us from the doorway. She didn't answer until we had turned the corner, and the house was no longer visible. "Mommy," she whispered, leaning forward in her car seat, "Grandma said I should never tell you what I saw." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What do you mean, sweetie? What did you see?" Lily looked down at her bunny. "After you called, when I was supposed to be sleeping, I got thirsty. I went to find Grandma, but she was in the living room with her special friends. Special friends? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual while my heart pounded. Uh-huh. 3 men and 1 lady. They were sitting around the coffee table with little bags of white powder. Grandma was showing them how to make lines with a credit card, like when you measure sugar for cookies but smaller. Then they put straws in their noses and sniffed it all up. I nearly missed a stop sign, my mind racing with horror. Did they see you? Lily nodded, tears forming. Grandma got really mad. Her face was all red and scary. She grabbed my arm really tight and pulled me back to bed. She said if I told you, you'd take me away, and I'd never see her again. But I don't want to see her again, Mommy. She was different. Her eyes looked weird, and she talked really fast. I pulled over, unable to drive while processing this. Did anything else happen, sweetie? Did anyone hurt you? No, but I heard yelling later. And when Grandma tucked me in again, she smelled funny. Like when Mr. Peterson from next door drinks his special adult juice on his porch. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm for Lily. You did the right thing telling me. You're not in trouble. Lily's face crumpled in worry. But I did something bad, Mommy. What do you mean? She unzipped a small hidden pocket in Graham, the bunny's back that I'd sewn for bunny secrets. From it, she pulled a tiny plastic bag containing white powder. I took this from the table when no one was looking, she whispered. I thought maybe we should show a police officer, because it made everyone act so weird. Was that stealing? I stared at the bag in shock, recognizing it immediately as cocaine. My 5-year-old daughter had just handed me evidence of drug use in my mother-in-law's home. And not just use based on the multiple people and small bags Lily described, possibly distribution. Sweetheart, I said carefully, sealing the bag in an empty mint container from my purse. This wasn't for you to worry about. But you're very brave, and I promise you did the right thing. As we drove home, one thought kept circling in my mind. What would Tom say if he knew I'd left his daughter in that environment? And more disturbingly, had he known what his mother was involved in all along? Back home, I sent Lily to play in her room while I called Amanda, my hands still shaking. Cocaine? Amanda gasped when I finished explaining. Are you absolutely sure? I know what it looks like, I said. And Lily described classic cocaine use perfectly. She even mentioned their behavior afterward, the agitation, the rapid speech. You need to call the police, Bree, right now. I paced the kitchen. But what if they take Lily away? What if they think I knowingly put her in danger? They won't, Amanda said firmly. You had no idea what was happening. But now you do, and if you don't report it, then you're complicit. Plus, what if Judith tries to get custody? You know she's been looking for any excuse. That possibility hadn't occurred to me, and it sent a fresh wave of panic through my body. Judith had money and connections. If she decided to paint me as an unfit mother, could she convince a court to give her access to Lily? I'll call now, I promised. After hanging up, I dialed 911 with trembling fingers. The dispatcher connected me to the local police department, where I gave a brief explanation. They promised to send someone immediately. 2 officers arrived 20 minutes later. A tall man named Officer Daniels, and a woman who introduced herself as Detective Sarah Patterson. I requested Detective Patterson specifically, Officer Daniels explained. She specializes in cases involving children and narcotics. Detective Patterson had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled at Lily. Would you mind if Officer Daniels talks to your daughter while you and I chat? She asked me. I agreed, and Officer Daniels took Lily to the living room while Detective Patterson and I sat at the kitchen table. I showed her the bag of cocaine and explained everything. You did the right thing calling us, she assured me. And for the record, no one thinks you did anything wrong. You couldn't have known. I should have, I admitted. My husband always kept Lily away from his mother. He never explained exactly why, just said she lived differently than we did. I assumed he meant she was materialistic or maybe drank too much. I never imagined drugs. Detective Patterson's expression shifted subtly. Your husband's name was Thomas Larson? Yes. He died 2 years ago in a car accident. She wrote something in her notebook. Mrs. Larson. This isn't the first complaint we've received about activity at Judith Larson's residence. We've had noise complaints, reports of suspicious visitors at odd hours, and anonymous tips about possible drug activity. But we've never had enough for a warrant. My stomach dropped. So you've been investigating her? Not officially, but her name has come up in several investigations. She hesitated. I don't want to alarm you, but the kind of gathering your daughter described isn't typical recreational drug use. It sounds more like a dealer meeting with clients or associates. I felt sick. My 5-year-old daughter was in a house with drug dealers? We don't know that for certain yet, she cautioned. But I'd like to get your permission to interview Lily formally. With you present, of course. Officer Daniels returned with Lily, who had drawn him a picture of what she'd seen at Grandma's house. It showed stick figures around a table with small squares on it and lines that made my heart sink. After they interviewed Lily, Detective Patterson explained they would need to get a warrant to search Judith's home. In the meantime, don't contact your mother. In-law, she advised. If she reaches out, just act normal, and don't mention the police. Almost as if summoned by our conversation, my phone rang with Judith's number. Should I answer? I whispered. Detective Patterson nodded. Put it on speaker. I accepted the call. Hello? You've got some nerve, Judith hissed without preamble. Showing up at 7 in the morning, dragging Lily out half, asleep. After all I did to give you a night off. I'm sorry if I offended you, I said carefully. I was just anxious to see her. Well, I hope you got whatever neurotic maternal need out of your system, because I want her next weekend too. Friday through Sunday. Detective Patterson shook her head vigorously. I don't think that will work with our schedule, I said. Maybe we can talk about it later this week? There's nothing to discuss, Judith snapped. I have rights as her grandmother. If you try to keep her from me, I'll take you to court faster than you can blink. Don't forget who has the resources in this situation, Brianna. My temper flared. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you of reality. I've been very patient. But Thomas would want his daughter to know her grandmother. And if you can't facilitate that voluntarily, I'll find another way. After she hung up, Detective Patterson looked troubled. She's escalating quickly. I don't like this. Can she really take me to court for grandparent visitation? I asked. She can try, Detective Patterson said. But given what we know, I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. Before leaving, Detective Patterson gave me her direct number. Call me anytime, day or night, if you feel unsafe, or if Judith makes contact again. And Mrs. Larson, there's something else you should know. She hesitated, seeming to debate with herself before continuing. We had an anonymous informant about activities at Judith Larson's house, who suddenly stopped cooperating about 2 years ago, around the same time your husband died. What are you saying? Her expression was grave. I'm saying that the timing raises questions about whether your husband's accident was actually an accident. After the police left, I sat in stunned silence, trying to process the implication. Could Tom have been informing on his own mother? And if so, could she or someone connected to her have been responsible for his death? The thought was too horrible to contemplate. But it would explain why he'd been so insistent on keeping Lily away from Judith. It wasn't just about her lifestyle. He might have known she was genuinely dangerous. My phone pinged with a text from Detective Patterson. Lock your doors tonight. Don't answer if Judith comes by. Call me if anything seems suspicious. The warning sent a chill down my spine. What had I stumbled into? And how could I protect Lily from whatever was coming? The next 48 hours passed in a blur of anxiety and sleepless nights. Detective Patterson called Sunday evening to tell me they'd executed a search warrant at Judith's house, but found nothing illegal. She must have cleaned house after Lily's visit, she explained, sounding frustrated. But we did find traces of cocaine in several locations using specialized testing. It's not enough for charges, but it supports your daughter's account. What happens now? I asked. We keep investigating. In the meantime, I'd suggest staying somewhere else for a few days. A friend's house, maybe? Judith knows she's under scrutiny now, and people in her position can get unpredictable. I called Amanda, who immediately offered her guest room. Jason's stomach bug is gone, and we'd love the company, she insisted. Pack enough for a week at least. We were loading suitcases into my car Monday morning, when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. All 4 tires had been slashed. I called Detective Patterson, who arrived with Officer Daniels 30 minutes later. They documented the damage while Amanda took Lily inside for breakfast. This could be random vandalism, Detective Patterson said, but her expression suggested she didn't believe that. But given the timing, I'm concerned. Do you have security cameras? No, I admitted. It never seemed necessary in this neighborhood. It's necessary now. She handed me a card. Call this security company. They can install a basic system today. The department will expedite it as part of the investigation. By that afternoon, we were settled at Amanda's house with cameras installed at my home, and Detective Patterson checking in regularly. I had to take emergency leave from my job as an elementary school librarian, explaining vaguely that we had a family situation. Tuesday morning, I received a certified letter. Judith was filing for emergency custody of Lily, claiming I was an unfit mother who had fabricated drug allegations to alienate her from her granddaughter. This is insane, Amanda said, as she read the letter. She can't possibly think this will work. The hearing is next Monday, I said, my voice shaking. That's less than a week to prepare. Amanda's husband, Dave, an insurance adjuster, knew several lawyers. He recommended Jack Henderson, who specialized in family law and had experience with cases involving criminal elements. Jack agreed to meet us that afternoon. He was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with prematurely gray hair and intense focus. This case is fascinating, he said after reviewing the custody filing and police reports. Your mother, in law, is claiming you planted drugs to frame her, while simultaneously demanding custody of the child who allegedly found those drugs. Is there any chance she could win? I asked. Normally, I'd say absolutely not. But there are some concerning elements here. He pointed to the judge assigned to our case. Judge Franklin has a reputation for favoring grandparent rights. And he's also known to be friendly with several wealthy families in town, including the Larsons? Jack nodded grimly. Judith's late husband was a major donor to Franklin's first campaign. We should request a different judge immediately. That evening, as Lily played with Jason in the backyard, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Mrs. Larson? This is Tyler White from the Spring Valley Tribune. We're running a story about your custody dispute with Judith Larson. Would you care to comment? I hung up immediately and called Jack, who was furious. She's trying to control the narrative by making this public. Don't talk to any reporters. And Brianna, be prepared, things might get ugly. Judith has connections in this town. He wasn't exaggerating. The next day, a local news website ran a sympathetic profile of Judith, portraying her as a grieving mother denied access to her only grandchild by a vindictive daughter, in law. The comment section filled with people condemning me without knowing the facts. On Thursday night, Lily woke up screaming from a nightmare. The bad men were chasing us, she sobbed as I held her. They said Grandma was mad and we had to pay. As I soothed her back to sleep, she mentioned something that made my heart stop. Mommy, I forgot to tell the police lady about the secret room. What secret room, sweetie? At Grandma's house. When I was looking for water, I saw one of the men push on the bookshelf in the office, and it opened like a magic door. They took boxes from inside and put the white powder in them. I called Detective Patterson immediately, even though it was nearly midnight. She arrived at Amanda's house within 20 minutes. A hidden room would explain why we found nothing during the search, she said after hearing Lily's account. We'll need to get another warrant, specifically mentioning this location. Friday brought another shock. Someone had broken into my house overnight, despite the security system. The alarm had triggered, but the intruder was gone when police arrived. Nothing seemed missing, but my bedroom had been ransacked, with dresser drawers emptied and mattress overturned. They were looking for something specific, Detective Patterson observed. Do you have any idea what it might be? I shook my head helplessly. That afternoon, Amanda and I took Lily to the park, hoping to give her some normalcy before the hearing. As Lily played on the swings, Amanda lowered her voice. There's something I haven't told you, she confessed. Someone contacted Dave at work yesterday. They said if he wanted to keep his job, I should reconsider being a character witness for you. I stared at her in shock. They threatened Dave's job? Who would do that? I don't know, but Dave's boss suddenly assigned him to an out-of-town job for next week. The timing is suspicious. You don't have to testify, I assured her. I understand. No, I'm testifying, Amanda said firmly. Nobody threatens my friends. But Bri, these people have reach. What did Tom really know about his mother? That question haunted me as I went through Tom's personal effects that evening, searching for anything that might help. In a box of miscellaneous items from his office, I found an old day planner with a safety deposit box key taped inside the back cover. The box number and bank name were written beside it. I showed Detective Patterson the next morning. I never knew he had a safety deposit box. Could this be what they were looking for at our house? She examined the key. Possibly. We should check it immediately. The bank manager was reluctant until Detective Patterson explained the situation. Inside the safety deposit box, we found a thumb drive, legal documents, and a sealed envelope addressed to me, with "Open only if something happens to me" written across it. My hands trembled as I opened the letter. Bree, it began in Tom's familiar handwriting. If you're reading this, I didn't make it. I've been helping the police gather evidence against my mother and her associates. They're involved in drug distribution with connections to local officials. I've documented everything on the enclosed drive. I never told you to keep you and Lily safe. If I die suddenly, it wasn't an accident. Go to Detective Sarah Patterson. Trust no one else. I'm sorry for the secrets. I love you both more than life. Tom. Detective Patterson read the letter with widening eyes. He was our anonymous informant. I never knew his identity. That information was compartmentalized. But now, everything makes sense. She took the thumb drive. This could be enough to blow the whole case open. The safety deposit box also contained documentation about offshore accounts, photographs of Judith with several local officials, and transcripts of recorded conversations that implicated at least one judge specifically, Judge Franklin, who was assigned to our custody case. This is why they're panicking, Detective Patterson said. Judith must suspect Tom left evidence somewhere. Your custody hearing is 3 days away, with the one judge they've compromised. They're trying to get legal control of Lily to manipulate you. Can we use this to stop the custody hearing? I asked. Better than that. We can use it to set a trap. Monday morning arrived with knots in my stomach. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters, tipped off about the society grandmother fighting for her rights. Judith arrived in a conservative blue suit, playing the role of dignified grieving mother perfectly. Inside, our legal teams took opposite sides of the courtroom. Judith's lawyer, Martin Wells, was a distinguished man in his 60s, with a reputation for ruthlessness. Jack Henderson looked young by comparison, but his eyes held steady determination. Judge Franklin entered, and the proceeding began. Martin Wells presented Judith as a loving grandmother, whose only crime was wanting a relationship with her granddaughter. Mrs. Judith Larson has suffered the unimaginable, losing her only child, Wells intoned dramatically. Now his widow seeks to deny her even the comfort of knowing her granddaughter. When Mrs. Larson finally had a chance to spend time with the child, the mother fabricated outrageous accusations to justify cutting her off completely. Wells called his first witness. My former neighbor, Patricia Wilson. I was confused. I barely knew Patricia. Mrs. Wilson, how would you describe Brianna Larson as a mother? Wells asked. Patricia glanced at me nervously. She seems unstable since her husband died. Often emotional, keeping unusual hours. I've heard the child crying late at night through open windows. I leaned toward Jack, whispering, That's not true. I barely talked to her. Jack nodded, making notes. When it was his turn to examine, he approached casually. Mrs. Wilson, when was the last time you had a conversation with Mrs. Larson? Patricia shifted uncomfortably. I don't recall exactly. Would it surprise you to learn that the Larsons' bedroom windows face the opposite direction from your house, making it impossible for you to hear anything through them? Patricia flushed. I might be mistaken about that detail. Jack pressed further. Are you acquainted with Martin Reeves? Patricia's face paled. I don't know who that is. Jack handed her a photograph. This shows you meeting with Mr. Reeves, who works for Mrs. Judith Larson, at a coffee shop last Thursday. Did he ask you to testify today? I don't have to answer that. Judge Franklin intervened. Mr. Henderson, stay focused on the custody matter. Your Honor, witness credibility is directly relevant, Jack argued. The judge reluctantly allowed the questioning to continue, but Patricia had already been discredited. The real shock came when Wells called his next witness. Amanda, I gasped, as my best friend walked to the stand, avoiding my eyes. Jack looked as surprised as I was. Mrs. Phillips, you're a close friend of Brianna Larson, correct? Wells asked. Yes, Amanda said, her voice barely audible. And in your opinion, has Mrs. Larson been emotionally stable since her husband's death? Amanda glanced at me, tears in her eyes. Brianna has struggled, as anyone would. Has she ever expressed resentment toward Judith Larson? Amanda swallowed hard. She's mentioned feeling that Mrs. Larson was intrusive. Did she ever say she wished Mrs. Larson would just disappear from their lives? Amanda nodded miserably. Something like that. I felt betrayed beyond words. My best friend was helping Judith take my daughter. When Jack Cross examined Amanda, his approach surprised me. Mrs. Phillips, has anyone threatened you or your family recently? Wells jumped up. Objection! Irrelevant and inflammatory. I'll allow it, Judge Franklin said, looking curious despite himself. Amanda's composure broke. My husband was told he'd lose his job if I testified for Brianna. Then someone left a note on my son's backpack at school saying they knew his route home. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Bree. They said if I didn't help them, they'd hurt Jason. The courtroom erupted. Judge Franklin banged his gavel repeatedly, calling for order. Next, Detective Patterson testified about the investigation, though the judge limited what she could say about the ongoing case. When Wells Cross examined her, he worked to portray the police investigation as a witch hunt based on a child's unreliable testimony. Isn't it possible that Mrs. Larson coached her daughter to make these allegations? He suggested. It's extremely unlikely, Detective Patterson replied. Lily described drug use in detail. No. 5-year-old could invent. And forensic testing confirmed cocaine residue in Mrs. Judith Larson's home. As the morning proceeded, it became clear Wells was building a narrative that I was mentally unstable and vindictive, willing to coach my daughter to lie to punish my mother, in Law for Unknown Grievances. During a lunch recess, Jack pulled me into a conference room. The judge is compromised, he whispered. No matter what evidence we present, he's going to rule for Judith. We need to execute the plan now. Detective Patterson joined us, speaking urgently. It's ready. When we go back in, just follow Jack's lead. When court resumed, Wells called his final witness. Judith herself. She played her part perfectly, dabbing at tears as she described her grief over losing Tom and her desire to maintain a connection to him through Lily. All I want is to be part of her life, Judith said. To share stories about her father and give her the love only a grandmother can provide. When Jack Cross examined Judith, he started gently. Mrs. Larson, when your son was alive, how often did you see your granddaughter? Judith shifted slightly. Not as often as I would have liked. My son and I had some disagreements about parenting styles. What kind of disagreements? He thought I was too permissive, too willing to spoil Lily. Jack nodded thoughtfully, then suddenly changed direction. Mrs. Larson, do you know Edward Mercer? Wells objected immediately, but Jack was ready. Your Honor, Mr. Mercer was present in Mrs. Larson's home the night Lily stayed over. His presence is directly relevant to whether the environment was appropriate. The judge reluctantly allowed the question. He's a business associate, Judith said stiffly. What business are you in, Mrs. Larson? Property management and investments. Jack walked to the evidence table and picked up a file. I'd like to enter this as Defense Exhibit A. It's a sworn affidavit from Edward Mercer, who is prepared to testify that he was part of a drug distribution network operating from your home, and that you are not a peripheral participant but a principal organizer. Gasps filled the courtroom. Judith's face hardened as Wells jumped up, shouting objections. While the judge and Wells argued, a man I didn't recognize entered the courtroom and approached the bench. He showed identification to the bailiff, who reluctantly allowed him to speak to the judge. The judge's face went ashen. He immediately called both attorneys to the bench for a whispered conference that grew increasingly heated. Finally, Judge Franklin addressed the courtroom. In light of new information, this hearing is suspended indefinitely. The emergency custody petition is denied, pending further investigation. As we left the courtroom, Jack explained what had happened. That was an FBI agent. They've been building a case based on Tom's evidence, and they just informed Judge Franklin that he's under investigation too. He had no choice but to recuse himself. In the courthouse hallway, I came face to face with Judith, whose carefully constructed facade had crumbled into cold fury. "You have no idea what you've done," she hissed. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." "It is for today," I replied, feeling stronger than I had in weeks. "You're not getting my daughter." Detective Patterson escorted us to her car. "Judith's right about one thing: this isn't over. The FBI is moving on her network, but it will take time to make arrests. You and Lily need protection until then." By Wednesday, our lives had been completely upended. The FBI arranged for Lily and me to stay in a hotel, under assumed names, while they prepared to make arrests. Detective Patterson remained our primary contact, visiting daily with updates. "They've executed search warrants at 17 locations," she told me on Thursday evening after Lily was asleep. "They found the hidden room at Judith's house exactly where Lily described it. It contained significant evidence, distribution records, large quantities of cocaine, and offshore banking information." "Have they arrested Judith?" I asked. Detective Patterson frowned. "That's the problem. She's disappeared. They went to arrest her Tuesday night, but she was gone. Her passport wasn't used, so they believe she's still in the country, probably using a false identity." The news sent fear coursing through me. "She could be anywhere. She could be looking for us right now." "That's why you're under protection," she assured me. "This hotel is secure, and there's always an officer nearby. No one knows you're here except a few key people. One of those people was Amanda." After the hearing, she had broken down completely, confessing that Judith's associates had threatened her family explicitly. "I forgave her immediately. I would have done the same if someone had threatened Lily." "Is Dave okay?" I asked when she called that evening. "He's back home. His company put him on paid leave once they learned about the threats." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Bri, I'm scared. These people are everywhere." The dad of one of Jason's friends stopped talking to us after the hearing. Later I realized he's the same guy I've seen at fundraisers with Judith. Her words confirmed what Detective Patterson had told me. Judith's network had deep roots in the community. The investigation was revealing connections to local businesses, charity boards, and even city officials. Jack Henderson visited on Friday, bringing news about the legal side of the case. "The custody petition has been permanently dismissed," he reported, "and I've filed for a permanent restraining order against Judith on your behalf. But until she's in custody, you need to stay vigilant." "How did she build all this?" I asked. Tom never mentioned his family having criminal connections. Jack's expression darkened. "From what I've learned, it started small after her husband died. Judith hosted parties where recreational drugs were available. Then she realized there was more money in supplying than consuming. Over time, she built connections and leveraged her social status as cover. And Tom found out. He must have. The evidence he gathered was meticulous recordings, financial records, photographs. He was building an airtight case. The realization that my husband had been secretly working against his own mother while pretending everything was normal broke my heart. He must have carried that burden alone for months or years, protecting Lily and me from the truth. On Saturday morning, Detective Patterson arrived, looking troubled. "We need to move you. There was a security breach at the station. Someone accessed the file with your location." Within an hour, we were in an unmarked police car, heading to a new safe house outside town. The cabin was remote, accessible only by a single dirt road, with a police officer stationed outside. "Only 3 people know you're here," Detective Patterson assured me. Myself, my captain, and the FBI agent in charge of the case. Not even Jack Henderson knows this location. That evening, Amanda called in tears. Someone broke into our house, she said. They didn't take anything valuable, just went through all our papers. Dave thinks they were looking for information about where you're staying. Are you all okay? I asked. We're at my mother's house. The police are watching it too. She paused. Bri, there's something else. Ryan called me. Tom's friend Ryan? Why would he call you? He's been trying to reach you. He said he has information about Tom's accident that you need to know. Something he was afraid to tell you before. I asked Amanda to have Ryan call Detective Patterson directly. She promised to pass along his number immediately. Sunday passed tensely. Lily and I played board games and watched movies, trying to maintain normalcy in our temporary home while officers rotated shifts outside. Detective Patterson called to say she'd spoken with Ryan and would be visiting the next day with important information. Monday morning, a fierce storm moved through the area, knocking out power at the cabin. The backup generator kicked in, but cell service was spotty at best. Around noon, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. I watched anxiously through the window as Detective Patterson stepped out, accompanied by a man in a dark suit, presumably the FBI agent she'd mentioned. Stay inside, sweetheart, I told Lily, heading to the door to greet them. Detective Patterson introduced her companion. This is Special Agent Davis. He has some significant updates on the case. Once inside, Agent Davis opened his briefcase while explaining the latest developments. We've identified Judith's entire network. Arrests are happening simultaneously across 3 states right now. Have you found Judith? I asked. He exchanged glances with Detective Patterson. Not yet. But we've frozen her accounts and issued alerts nationwide. It's only a matter of time. As Agent Davis spread documents across the table, I noticed Detective Patterson checking her phone repeatedly. Is everything okay? I asked her. The storm's interfering with reception, she said. I was expecting a call from Ryan. He had information about your husband's death that could be relevant. What kind of information? He believes your husband's car accident wasn't random. He claims to have evidence that the brake lines were tampered with. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. If true, it confirmed my worst fear. Tom had been murdered. Agent Davis continued briefing me on security procedures, while Detective Patterson excused herself to try making a call from the porch, where reception might be better. Minutes later, she burst back inside, her face ashen. We need to leave. Now. Grab Lily and only essential items. What's happening? Agent Davis demanded. I just reached the officer stationed at the road entrance. He reported seeing Detective Miller heading this way about 10 minutes ago. Who's Detective Miller? I asked. That's the problem, she said grimly. There is no Detective Miller in our department, and the officer said he had FBI credentials. Agent Davis immediately drew his weapon. Did you authorize anyone else to come here? No. And the description matches Kevin Reeves, Judith's head of security, who disappeared the same night she did. My blood ran cold. How did he find us? Detective Patterson's expression hardened. There's only one explanation. We have a leak someone inside the investigation. I ran to get Lily, throwing our essential items into a small bag, while Detective Patterson and Agent Davis secured the house. As we headed for their vehicle, a second SUV identical to theirs appeared on the road ahead. Back inside, Agent Davis ordered. That's not one of ours. We retreated to the cabin, where Agent Davis called for emergency backup, while Detective Patterson took a defensive position near the windows. They're blocking the only road out, she said. Backup is at least 20 minutes away in this weather. I held Lily close, trying to keep her calm as Agent Davis searched for another exit. There's a service path through the woods behind the property, he reported. If we can reach it, we might be able to circle back to the main road. Before we could move, the front door crashed open. I pulled Lily into the bathroom, locking the door as gunshots echoed through the cabin. I heard Detective Patterson shouting, and more shots, then silence. Terrified, I searched for a weapon, finding only a can of hairspray. I positioned Lily in the bathtub, covering her with towels. Stay very quiet, sweetie, I whispered. Whatever happens, don't make a sound. Footsteps approached the bathroom door. I raised the hairspray, ready to spray it in the intruder's eyes. The door handle turned slowly, then stopped. "Brianna?" It was Detective Patterson's voice. "It's clear. You can come out." Something in her tone seemed off. I remained silent, remembering Tom's letter. "Trust no one else." "Brianna, we need to hurry. They might have reinforcements coming." I still didn't respond. Then I heard a familiar click, the sound of a gun being cocked. "I know you're in there," the voice continued, no longer bothering to sound like Detective Patterson. "Open the door, or I start shooting through it." My mind raced desperately. The bathroom window was too small for escape, and there was nowhere to hide. I whispered for Lily to stay down, then braced myself against the door. Suddenly, real gunshots rang out from the main room, followed by shouting. After several tense minutes, a new voice called out, "Mrs. Larson? This is Agent Martinez with the FBI. Detective Patterson sent me. You're safe now." Still wary, I didn't move. "Prove it." "Your husband's friend Ryan told us about the brake lines. Detective Patterson is outside securing the perimeter. The threat has been neutralized." I remained unconvinced until I heard Detective Patterson herself. "Brianna, check the bathroom window. I'm right outside." I peeked through the blinds to see her familiar face. Only then did I unlock the door. The scene outside was chaotic. 3 men were in handcuffs, including a man I recognized as Agent Davis. The FBI agent had been an imposter, one of Judith's men who had infiltrated the investigation. "He's been feeding information to Judith from the beginning," Detective Patterson explained, as we were escorted to a genuine FBI vehicle. "That's how they knew about the safe house." "Where is Judith?" I asked. "Still missing. But with her network crumbling and her inside source exposed, she's running out of options." As we drove away, I held Lily close, wondering when this nightmare would finally end, and if we'd ever truly be safe while Judith remained free. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of safe houses, debriefings, and security precautions. The FBI moved us to a heavily guarded location outside the state while continuing their manhunt for Judith. Special Agent Teresa Martinez became our new primary contact. Unlike the imposter Agent Davis, she had a warmth that helped Lily feel secure despite the circumstances. "The good news is that we've arrested 27 members of your mother in Law's network," she told me Tuesday evening, including Judge Franklin and 3 other local officials. "The operation is completely dismantled." "What about Judith herself?" I asked, keeping my voice low so Lily wouldn't hear from where she was coloring with another agent. Agent Martinez's expression tightened. "Still at large, but running out of resources and allies. We've frozen all her known accounts and properties. It's only a matter of time." But time was something I wasn't sure we had. As long as Judith remained free, Lily and I would be looking over our shoulders, living in safe houses under armed guard. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I finally allowed myself to fully process everything that had happened. Tom hadn't died in a random accident. He had been murdered for trying to bring down his own mother's criminal enterprise. And now Lily and I were targets of the same woman who had orchestrated his death. The next morning, Agent Martinez brought news that made my blood run cold. "We've received intelligence that Judith may attempt to flee the country. She's been seen near the Canadian border." She hesitated. "There's also reason to believe she's still fixated on getting to Lily. In her mind, her granddaughter is both her last connection to her son and a potential bargaining chip." "What do we do?" I asked. "We're moving you again today, to a location even I won't know until we're en route. Only the 3 most senior agents on the case will have that information." As we prepared to leave, Detective Patterson arrived to say goodbye. After working so closely with us, she was being reassigned now that the case had expanded beyond local jurisdiction. "I wanted you to have this," she said, handing me a flash drive. "It's everything we recovered from Tom's evidence, minus what's needed for prosecution. There are photos, videos from family events, letters, things Lily might want someday to remember her father." I hugged her, grateful for her compassion amidst all the chaos. "Will you let me know when they find Judith?" "You'll be the first call I make," she promised. Our new safe house was a remote cabin in the mountains, accessible only by a single security, monitored road. 2 agents stayed with us at all times, with another team patrolling the perimeter. We were completely isolated. No internet, no cell service, and no contact with the outside world, except through secure FBI channels. Days stretched into a week as the manhunt for Judith continued. Lily adapted to our strange circumstances with remarkable resilience, but I could see the strain in her eyes whenever she asked when we could go home. 9 days into our mountain isolation, Agent Martinez arrived with updates. The FBI had conducted searches of all Judith's known properties and interviewed dozens of associates. The net was tightening, but she remained elusive. "We've had 3 confirmed sightings, all in different states," Martinez explained. "She's using disguises and false identification, but making mistakes due to desperation." That evening, after the agents had completed their perimeter check, I sat on the cabin porch, watching the sunset, while Lily played inside with one of the agents. The forest around us was eerily quiet, the silence broken only by occasional bird calls. As darkness fell, I noticed headlights in the distance, moving up the access road. Agent Martinez had left hours ago, and no one else was scheduled to arrive. I rushed inside. "Someone's coming," I told the agents, who immediately went on alert. "Stay with Lily in the safe room," ordered Agent Wilson, the team leader. "Don't come out until one of us gives the all, clear." I hurried Lily into the reinforced interior room designed for exactly this scenario. As I locked the heavy door, I heard voices outside, then a sudden eruption of gunfire. Lily whimpered, and I held her close. "It's going to be okay, sweetie," I whispered, though I had no idea if that was true. Minutes passed like hours as the sounds of conflict continued. Then came a terrible silence. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily whispered. "Me too, sweetie. But remember what we practiced? We're going to be very quiet and brave." More silence, then footsteps approaching the safe room. Someone tried the handle, then knocked. "Mrs. Larson?" "It's Agent Wilson. All clear." I didn't respond. We'd established a code phrase for safety, and he hadn't used it. "Brianna, please. We need to evacuate immediately. There may be more coming." Still, I remained silent. Then a new voice spoke, one that sent ice through my veins. "Brianna, darling, enough of this nonsense. Open the door. I just want to see my granddaughter." It was Judith. "Go away," I called, trying to keep my voice steady. "The FBI is on their way." Judith laughed. "The FBI thinks I'm in Seattle right now. By the time they realize their mistake, we'll be long gone. Now open this door, or I'll have my men break it down." I looked around desperately for anything I could use as a weapon. The safe room was stocked with water, food, and basic supplies, but nothing substantial for defense. Then my eyes fell on the flash drive Detective Patterson had given me. An idea formed desperate and risky, but possibly our only chance. "Lily," I whispered, "remember how we played hide-and-seek yesterday? I need you to hide in that storage cabinet and not come out no matter what you hear. Can you do that for Mommy?" She nodded solemnly, and I helped her into the large cabinet, arranging emergency blankets around her. Complete silence, just like our special game. Once she was hidden, I connected the flash drive to the tablet that had been left in the safe room. As I suspected, it contained not just family photos but all of Tom's evidence, including audio recordings. Outside, I could hear the sounds of something heavy being positioned against the door. "Last chance, Brianna," Judith called. "This room wasn't designed to withstand a determined attack. We'll be through in minutes." "Wait," I called. "I'll open it, just don't hurt Lily." "I would never harm my granddaughter," she replied, her tone suddenly gentle. "I only want what's best for her. What Thomas would have wanted." I positioned the tablet near the door, found the audio file I needed, and turned the volume to maximum. Then I took a deep breath and unlocked the door. Judith stood there flanked by 2 men in tactical gear. Her appearance had changed, hair dyed dark and cut short, face thinner than I remembered, but her cold eyes were unmistakable. "Where's Lily?" she demanded, scanning the room. "Gone," I said. "The FBI moved her yesterday. They suspected you might find this location." Judith's face contorted with rage. "You're lying." Am I? You're not the only one with connections, Judith. Tom made sure of that. Her expression shifted at the mention of her son. Thomas never understood what I was building. He could have been part of it, been set for life. Instead, he chose to betray his own mother. He chose to protect his daughter from a criminal, I countered. Judith stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I protected him his entire life, gave him everything. And how did he repay me? By working with the police to destroy me. Did you kill him? I asked, needing to hear the truth. She smiled coldly. Thomas had an unfortunate accident. He should have known better than to stand against me. Just like you should know better. As she spoke, I subtly pressed play on the tablet. Tom's voice filled the room. April 15th. Final recording of Judith Larson discussing the distribution operation. Judith's own voice followed. The Seattle shipment needs to move tonight. Judge Franklin has guaranteed the warehouse won't be searched if we use his cousin's trucks. Double his usual payment. Judith lunged for the tablet, but I was ready. I slammed it against her head, then shoved past her, and ran for the main cabin area. Her men gave chase, but were momentarily confused about whether to pursue me or secure the recording. Those precious seconds gave me enough time to reach the kitchen and grab the canister of bear spray the agents kept by the back door. When the first man rounded the corner, I unleashed the spray directly in his face. He fell back, screaming and clutching his eyes. The second man was more cautious, using furniture for cover. I knew I couldn't outrun them or overpower them. My only hope was to create enough chaos to find a working phone or weapon. I spotted Agent Wilson's body near the front door, his service weapon still in its holster. I made a desperate dash for it, ducking as the second man fired a shot that splintered the doorframe beside me. Just as my fingers closed around the gun, Judith appeared, her face contorted with fury. You stupid, ungrateful girl. After everything I've done for this family. Family? I spat, pointing the weapon at her with shaking hands. You murdered your own son. You tried to take his daughter. That's not family, that's monstrous. You don't understand what it takes to build something lasting, she said, taking a step closer despite the gun. Thomas didn't either. But Lily will. She has Larson blood, my blood. With the right upbringing, away from your weak influence, she could continue what I started. Stay back, I warned, as she took another step. The remaining guard was circling to flank me. You won't shoot me, Judith said confidently. You don't have it in you. She was right. I had never fired a gun before, and despite everything, I didn't know if I could take a human life, even hers, but I didn't need to. I aimed at the ceiling and pulled the trigger. The shot was deafening in the confined space. In that moment of distraction, I lunged for the emergency alarm on the wall, a direct line to FBI headquarters that Agent Martinez had shown me just in case. Judith realized my intention too late. Her remaining guard tried to intercept me, but in his haste, he slipped on the bear spray coating the floor. I slammed my hand on the alarm, sending the emergency signal that would bring a tactical response team within minutes from their nearby staging area. Judith's face showed genuine fear for the first time. We need to go, she told her guard. Now. You're not going anywhere, I said, keeping the gun trained on them. It's over, Judith. No more running. No more hurting people. She looked at me with pure hatred. You think I can't still destroy you? One phone call from prison, and you'll never— Her words cut off abruptly as sirens wailed in the distance, growing rapidly closer. Your network is dismantled, I told her. Your accomplices are in custody. Your money is frozen. You have nothing left. Her guard made a break for the door. But I fired another warning shot that stopped him in his tracks. Both of you, on the floor, hands behind your heads. To my surprise, they complied, even Judith, though the look in her eyes promised this wasn't over. 3 minutes later, the cabin was swarming with FBI agents. I directed them to Lily's hiding place, while others secured Judith and her accomplice. Agent Martinez arrived, looking both relieved and impressed. You did it, she said, watching as Judith was led away in handcuffs. It's really over. 1 year later, life had found a new normal. Judith's trial had concluded with a 40 year sentence for drug trafficking, conspiracy, and the murder of Tom. Her network had been completely dismantled, with over 30 people serving sentences for various roles in the operation. Lily and I had moved to a new town, where I used part of the seized assets awarded to us to start a foundation in Tom's name. The Thomas Larson Foundation supported children affected by drug crimes, providing counseling, educational opportunities, and safe spaces. The rest of the money went into a trust for Lily's future and to renovate a small bookstore I purchased. New Chapter books became both our livelihood and our healing space. Amanda and her family moved nearby, our friendship stronger for having weathered such an ordeal. She managed the cafe section of the bookstore, and our children had become inseparable friends. Detective Patterson visited occasionally, having been promoted after the case. She and Jack Henderson had started dating, bonded by their shared experience, bringing down Judith's empire. One crisp fall afternoon, Lily and I visited Tom's grave with fresh flowers. At 7 years old, Lily understood more about what had happened, though the full details would wait until she was older. "Daddy was a hero, wasn't he?" she asked as she arranged sunflowers, his favorite, against the headstone. "Yes, sweetie. He was trying to protect a lot of people, including us. Just like you protected me from Grandma." I smoothed her hair, so much like Tom's. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stand up to people who are doing wrong, even when they're family. Is that why we help other kids now? Because we know what it's like to be scared? That's exactly why. I smiled at her wisdom. Your dad started the fight for justice, and we finished it. Now we're helping others start new chapters in their stories. As we walked back to the car, hand in hand under trees blazing with autumn colors, I reflected on everything we'd endured. The path had been unimaginably difficult, but we'd emerged stronger, more compassionate, and more determined to make a difference. Judith had wanted to build a legacy of power through fear and corruption. Instead, Tom's true legacy lived on through our foundation, through the lives we touched, and most importantly, through the bright, brave daughter who carried his spirit forward. "Ready for hot chocolate at the bookstore?" I asked Lily. She nodded enthusiastically. "Can I help Amanda with the cookies today?" "Absolutely. It's a perfect day for new beginnings." And it was. Each day without the shadow of fear was a gift, one I never took for granted. The nightmare had ended, but the lessons remained. Trust your instincts, protect what matters most, and never underestimate the strength you have within. Have you ever had to stand up for what's right, even when it was difficult or scary? Comment below with your story of courage or a time when you trusted your instincts to protect yourself or someone you love. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder of their own inner strength. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most beautiful new chapters in our lives.